Hey, we're starting our last week and our last staff behavior, which is the term that we've acknowledged to be hungry. Um, I don't know if you've experienced hunger at different times of your life or certain circumstances, but it's that kind of like ache and thing that really pushes you, if you have a sense of that. But it's not that kind of hunger we're talking about today, but it's similar. It's really the drive that is required to be a leader. There's, I think, probably four or five key components of what it means to be a strong Christian leader. And I'm convinced that this behavior of being hungry is on the probably the top of the list. So let's talk a little bit more about what that means. So to be hungry, another way to say that is to be driven. And maybe you can think about different leaders in your life and you could identify several of them that have been very driven. They have a purpose, they have a passion, and they attack it. And their ability to be faithful and successful is because of that drive. I think that's the kind of passion that we're talking about, that's an important component to what it means to be a great orientation intern. The world, I think, wants us to be driven, but I think they want us to be driven towards things that maybe aren't exactly what it means to be a servant leader, a Christ follower. And I've listed things like be hungry, be driven towards accomplishments or success or recognition. Well, those three things aren't bad, and I hope that you do experience those in your internship. Those really aren't what we as Christians are supposed to be passionate for or hungry for or be driven for. What I really think that God calls us to in this idea of being hungry is being driven towards the mission and the vision of the organization that you're a part of. So right now, that's Calvin University and our orientation mission. But whether you're in a nonprofit or in a company, you have to be motivated. You have to be passionate. You have to be driven about what the organization is trying to accomplish. Number one. Number two, self-development, self-growth. You really need to be hungry to grow and develop yourself. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. And lastly, and we've been talking about this through our book that we've been reading, I think you have to be hungry about creating moments, moments that actually change lives and influence circumstances. And so for that, that could be moments that we'll have as a team and ensuring that you create a space where we have this amazing experience, whether that's new students or their families, whether that's orientation assistants or orientational leaders. This idea of being passionate about creating moments, I think, is so critical to this internship. So I think the key when we talk about being driven, being hungry, is this idea of like passion. And I'm not sure you consider yourself a passionate person. Maybe you would, but I think this is something that you really have to tap into as a leader. And so, particularly this role that you have as an intern, there won't be every aspect of this job that you'll feel passionate about. Like there's some things that I do not like to do as part of my work, and yet I'm still very passionate about my work because there's four or five things that I can name that are really things that drive me. So, for example, developing student leaders, a huge passion of mine and something that I want to tap into almost every day. Mentoring students and others is a big passion of mine. Being able to learn and grow and develop, another big passion of mine. If I can stay keyed in on those things, that allows me to stay passionate about the work that's in front of me. And so passion will not only fuel your work, but it will keep you motivated and enables you to be a way better leader. And I think where that starts is that it really creates habits that you need to have as a leader that creates the fuel that you need for that passion. Passion doesn't just happen. It actually needs a fuel that will burn. And so think about passion, think about hunger as a flame, right? And that flame needs to be kind of fueled by a source. And it's your responsibility as a leader to find what the source of your fuel is and to ensure you have the habits and the behaviors and the circumstances where you're having access to that fuel. I think for me as a leader, one of my biggest challenges was early on, I wasn't very cognizant of what the things were that fueled me. And I would quickly burn out. And after I was burnt out, I had no way of refueling. And it kind of was like, what's going on? And I think as you become a better leader, as I became a better leader, I understood that part of me leading myself was understanding what fuel I needed in my life to ensure that I could maintain that passion. And so ultimately, this comes down to if you are a driven person, it means that you're going to lead yourself well and find the fuel that will ignite that passion around your work. And so that's really the homework that you have for this week. So I want you to be able to identify clearly what is the fuel that fuels your tank, the passion, this drive that we're talking about, this hunger. What are the I'd say behaviors, what are the experiences, what are the circumstances that creates this fuel that fills your tank so that you can be this passionate leader that we're talking about. I'd like you to reflect a little bit about that in your journal, and then I want to talk about that in our one-on-ones this week so we have a better understanding of how important this idea it is to be hungry at work. And so blessings this week. I look forward to chatting with you all. Bye-bye.